thank you everyone for coming up, joining this space today. If you don't already know, I am Hunter, the community manager over here at Arbitrum. And today we are joined by the folks over at PlutusDAO, the layer 2 governance black hole. Very daunting name, by the way. I love it.
Oh, we had to go a little aggressive with it, of course.
No, it's great. I think it fits very, very perfectly. Before we do get into things, maybe if you don't mind, maybe if you guys are able to kind of run each through kind of what you work at over at PlutusDAO, starting with yourself, Ethersol.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the co-founders kind of got the whole thing started, but of course, it wouldn't be anything without the team. I run most of the BD stuff as well as marketing, and I'll kick it over to who's known as Big, but Wave Rider on Twitter, it seems.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I'm also one of the co-founders. Me and Ether, we kind of, ended up starting Plutus together in the DMs, but we'll get a little bit more into that later. And as far as what I take care of, I'm pretty big on the BD front, and then also picking up some of the technical admin stuff of keeping an eye on the multi-sig, getting those transactions through, and things like modeling emissions, tokenomics, and numbers things that are usually pretty boring, monotonous, and tedious, and aren't fun to talk about always.
But still the stuff that we need.
Exactly, the things that are required for a project, to run and function, but aren't exactly the most glamorous parts of it.
I love it. And it's funny. Those are the things that definitely don't get enough light in this industry, but they really do when things go the other way. So we appreciate you for that.
Absolutely.
So I think I'm gonna ask you guys about PlutusDAO and maybe kind of like the background story behind it. But I think for even just to go a little bit before that, I think it's I've been at Arbitrum for quite a while. I've been here for over a year, and I've seen obviously protocols native to Arbitrum come up over time, and obviously projects who kind of bridge over as well. But it's truly very refreshing to have projects like PlutusDAO around, just because it's not only do you have such a novel kind of protocol come about on this relatively new chain, but you also just have you guys as amazing. I'm gonna use the word cheerleaders for the space, but I'm a cheerleader myself, so that's a good thing. You guys really do kill it, I think, from a tech perspective and from a community perspective is really what I'm trying to say there. So it's really cool to kind of be speaking with y'all today and really shining the light on PlutusDAO. Shining the light on the black hole is what I should say. Wow, that was a good one.
We might have to take that for marketing, but we're happy to be here. I've been a power user of Arbitrum since day one. Actually, was looking forward to it ever since Off Chain Labs kind of announced their vision for Arbitrum and all that. So, being here is truly a special moment, and being a cheerleader for Arbitrum is pretty easy.
That is amazing. Yes, and that is all I strive to make sure that happens. Is there a go there? Wait 1 second. So I think with that, maybe we can just get right into it. So what is PlutusDAO, for those that don't know? And is there kind of backstory behind, the creation of it?
Yeah, I'll hop in here. So PlutusDAO is basically like a governance black hole, like we said. We basically provide people a liquid staking option, so like a liquid stake derivative. So you have people staking ETH on mainnet, and then you have companies or protocols like Lido, which allow you to stake your ETH, but have an exit plan if you say you need liquidity. So a lot of tokens and governance go with the VE model, the vote escrowed model, which is basically brought about via Curve. And so, in order to maximize your governance, you have to lock your tokens up anywhere from 1 to 4 years. 4 years being the max ROI type of deal. Now, as we know, 4 years is basically an eternity in crypto. I mean, it's pretty much goes without saying, of course. And so we provide people kind of a liquid option where we provide an exit pool where if you wanted to keep that liquidity, you could exit basically at any time while also getting the max ROI on your tokens. And in exchange, Plutus takes that governance power and is essentially looking to steer the direction of a lot of the protocols that will hopefully be on the future of Arbitrum. And so, as you've seen with Curve, and this was kind of first brought about by Convex, Convex Finance, they're on Ethereum mainnet. But people bribe for this governance power, and so that's kind of the gist of where we're aiming to go with all this.
Interesting, and I think in that case, is it is that at all compare? I mean, I know you kind of just compared it to convex finance, but is it like, are there any I guess risks with doing so, like doing it that way rather than just like keeping it as just like locked tokens essentially, and not maybe going that extra route of liquidity, or yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah. It's
what's
it's a
the
good
thought
it's a
there?
good it's a good question. So, we're a little different from Convex just because, think about if Convex did a little more than just Curve, right? Curve is a huge ecosystem, so they kind of had, you know, their bread buttered there, where it was like, okay, cool, we can live off this and have a thriving protocol and stop here. But imagine if they didn't, right? They could have had an insane black hole of just governance all over Ethereum. And so that was kind of where it began. But as far as risks go, as a user and a power user in DeFi myself, I see more risk in locking a token up for 4 years rather than going, say, a liquid staked option. Of course, if you go with something like PlutusDAO, there is added smart contract risk and all those things that you have to weigh out. But keeping a token locked for 4 years in this environment just doesn't seem um, like a smart use of capital in my head. Obviously I'm a little biased, but having the option for liquidity and getting paid extra rewards to me seems like a no-brainer.
No, totally agreed. I think that's actually a wonderful point that really I don't think is brought up enough. It's like the obvious risk, as you mentioned, honestly, to any type of uh, you know um, any type of interaction you do on chain. It's it'll always be like smart contract risk and anything related to it. But like I guess people we kind of forget about like the economic risks that come with like locking something up and like for a 4 year time period when this space really operates in like a couple month time period when we talk about quote unquote long term. So that totally makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess another part of the risk there is that with Plutus, we decided to front run most of that governance. So the governance that we are accumulating right now isn't fully live. We started out with the options protocol DopeX, the kind of like money manager protocol Jones, and then we just added Sparax, which is like a stable coin on Arbitrum. So go check them all out. But a lot of the governance for those projects isn't fully up and running yet, and so it was kind of a risk for us to front run that. But it's paid dividends with being able to lock up a big portion of the governance. And as these protocols mature, it's kind of like looking like a genius decision. Now, of course, there's plenty that can happen until things go live, and we know how the space works. But yeah, that was an interesting kind of strategy decision that we had to make, and it was like the community took a chance on us, and here we are.
And on that note, I mean, like in terms of like uh, speaking of really taking chances, not only did in a way the community took a chance on you, but you guys took a chance as well by coming to the big blue chain, Arbitrum One. Why why did you guys end up deploying on Arbitrum One to begin with? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah. Well, for starters, Arbitrum is obviously secured, by Ethereum, and everything gets passed on to the main chain. So, one, that level of security for a chain that isn't the mainnet chain, that was a big factor of just like, okay, Arbitrum, very secure, good place for us to go. And to Etherswell's point earlier, like he was an early power user. Arbitrum also caught my eye really early on with GMX going there, and then DopeX also going to Arbitrum. And looking at it, I kind of saw early on, like, okay, there's a lot of infrastructure being built out here. And, for Arbitrum to be successful, there's going to be more infrastructure that needs to get further built out and, built out and built out. And I think over the past year, we've really seen that, Arbitrum grow from something with like a few core projects to now having like a handful of large projects with a bunch of other tertiary projects coming up. And like, I think governance aggregators are something that are a necessity on every chain. And there was kind of the clear hole in Arbitrum of like, there's no project aggregating governance, but there are these great projects on Arbitrum that have what we believe is going to be, valuable governance. So, hey, let's get in here, start now, start building now. We can front run governance on some of these projects, start building up how much governance we have, which will ultimately pay in dividends for PLS holders, ideally. And so yeah, like Arbitrum was kind of this place where it was like, hey, this is a great chain that, obviously has lower transaction fees too, which, we think are appealing to a lot of people because there are some things on mainnet where people just got priced out, whereas it can be done on Arbitrum for, a price that just about everybody can afford to use. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think Arbitrum kind of, looked like the most prime place to start building. And ultimately, we jumped at that opportunity, to kind of build something on Arbitrum that we feel is kind of needed on any chain ultimately.
Totally get that take. And I think when I first phrased that question is, I'm like, why do you guys take the risk in coming into Arbitrum? I think I mainly phrased it that way because obviously earlier on there's going to be a lot less projects than there is now, of course. So that being said, like you guys definitely were, I think, one of the like really took advantage of like that first mover kind of first mover advantage really, and really like I think like have made so far like a huge name for yourself, especially when it comes to like partnerships and stuff like that, which we'll talk about later on. Like I I feel like I see more hype come sometimes from your partnerships than like our partnerships.
Yeah, honestly, the Arbitrum ecosystem and the community it has is truly unmatched. I want to say, like, um, I think on top of everything that Big went over is like early days, Off Chain Labs was so involved with the Chainlink guys, and I was like, okay, that clearly shows to me that they understand DeFi and security, and so that was kind of the initial like aha moment where I was thinking, all right, I think, the new home of DeFi is going to be Arbitrum. And so, DopeX led the way of bridging over and kind of being like, hey, we're going to make a stakehold in Arbitrum. And then that kind of led the way for us.
Yeah, special shout outs to the DopeX community as well. Love those guys. I
Absolutely.
think that's enough. That's enough. What do you call it? Self promotion for us there. Let's get more into the Plutus stuff.
Let's
So
do it.
yes. I think we can easily start off with just talking maybe a little bit about how the different product lines work. So that's the PLS assets and the PLV assets for those that don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So PLS asset is like what we were talking about earlier. It's that liquid max staked ROI type of coin. So example, we have DopeX, SpareX, and Jones. And so, you can go to these native protocols and lock these tokens for any specified amount of time, 4-year being the max lock. And that's how you would get the max ROI. Now with us, you could stake with us and, a PLS asset basically means it's going to be locked in us forever, and so you'll earn max rewards. And then we have an exit pool of, the native asset paired with the PLS asset that allows people to exit on, anytime they choose basically. So, you get max ROI while having that liquid exit option. And it's one of those things where what's the better of both world, or what's the the best decision for you, right? If you don't want any slippage, because sometimes these exit pools can have slippage on the PLS asset to the native asset, which makes sense. The market determines the price for those. Normally, you'd be locked up for 4 years though, so you kind of got to weigh the pros and cons. So then, we didn't just stop there. We started adding PLV assets. So PLS, you can say like Plutus, lock, staking, whatever, and then PLV is more of a vault asset. So our first asset here was GLP, which shout out to the GMX squad. This is basically their LP token for people to trade perps. And so, we were thinking, okay, first off, there's a lot of complexities with GLP as is. There's a ton of back end accounting they do with the rewards and all that stuff. So why not make a DeFi Lego for this perfect collateral? It's basically made up half ETH, half Bitcoin, and then the rest stables. And so it's like kind of a stable asset that earns a ton of real yield from people trading on GMX. And so our thing was like, this is impossible for people to build on right now as is. So we basically made it auto compounding, so you can deposit your GLP in the vault. And this is more for like a long term user, but the people who just want their assets auto compounded can deposit here. And then it's kind of like I said, it's the perfect DeFi Lego for collateral. So we're working with a bunch of up and coming protocols and protocols already established on Arbitrum to allow people to borrow against their positions. Some people might be a little degen and want to loop those positions where they'll go and buy more GLP on top of their GLP and kind of loop it like that, so they're earning even more rewards. So PLV assets are basically like vault assets that make it much easier for the rest of the DeFi ecosystem to build on top of. And then PLS assets are those liquid locked options where normally you'd have to lock for 4 years to get the max ROI if you wanted to participate in governance. But with us, you would lock through us. The governance goes to PLS holders, and you get the max rewards.
Okay, wow, no, that was a great explanation, by the way. I think, oh, go for it.
Oh no, go ahead, go ahead. I was gonna say that it's definitely complex. So if I went a little too fast there, head on over to the Discord. We're happy to answer questions.
No, no worries. I think actually, I am gonna ask actually one question about the PLV asset. So just so I understand that correctly, is that more so like again like akin to what the GLP is for the GMX protocol, but you're essentially allowing any current partner protocol to build their own type of kind of GLP asset? Does that even make sense?
So it's like this, like we take GLP, and so someone could go stake GLP on the GMX native protocol, right? And they'd be earning their rewards and all that stuff. Now, a lot of people like to compound their rewards, right? They want more GLP, so they take their ETH and then they buy more GLP. Now, obviously on Arbitrum, the gas costs are pretty minimal. So, people be like, "Oh, I'll just compound myself." With GLP, you get what's called ESGMX as well, which is escrow GMX, and that's locked up for a year. And so we're like, okay, GMX has governance via the GMX and ESGMX token. So let's create this vault, the PLV GLP vault, where people can deposit GLP. Their ETH earned will automatically go towards buying more GLP. So your GLP balance is constantly growing. And then on top of that, let's give them Plutus tokens in exchange for the ESGMX they earned to basically make it liquid. And so, and then the added layer is obviously the DeFi Lego. So these assets are basically someone depositing GLP, and instead of depositing it in GMX itself, they deposit with us because they get these sort of liquid rewards right away and an asset that's a little easier for people to build on.
Ah, okay, no, that makes sense now. So is there a that's very that's crazy, by the way. That's truly like a really I never thought that there'd be this much. I don't want to use the word looping in this case, but like this is like the peak of like derivatives. I feel like we're hitting right now.
Yeah, it gets
It's
a little
very
deep.
meta. It's
It
very
gets a
meta.
little deep for sure.
Do you guys envision there being more different types of PLV assets? Because I know there are different protocols that are coming up now with their own types of like I mean their own similar kind of thing to what GLP is.
Yeah, so a little alpha is we're probably going to be launching PLV GMX type of asset soon. So you can go wild with that.
Nice. I didn't even try digging for that too. Very nice.
You know, you got to reward the people showing up.
So in that case, how can users, would you say, from different protocols, then kind of benefit from using Plutus specifically? And are there any other similar protocols like Plutus on Arbitrum? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think that there are any similar projects on Arbitrum right now that are swallowing up governance. And as far as users from different protocols benefiting, I think that each protocol we kind of build off of, the users can benefit in a different way. But there are kind of some ways where the benefits cross over between all of them. So the first most straightforward, basic way that a user from a different protocol can benefit, whether it be DopeX, Jones, Spirax, or someone on GMX using GLP, or in the future using GMX when we have PLV GMX. Uh, there's obviously the bonus of, okay, for PLS assets, the users benefit from not having to lock their capital for 4 years if they want to get those max rewards, and on top of that, they get the PLS token, and the same goes for the PLV assets. In that case, with GLP, they can immediately get completely liquid rewards instead of having that ESGMX, and we're happy to take that ESGMX because there's some governance power behind it. And then I think there are some ways that people might not immediately see that they're benefiting from. So one way is that if you're a protocol with governance, you ideally want either as many people voting as possible. You want as many tokens locked and participating in governance as possible, because it creates a larger quorum of people voting. Like, imagine if only 3 people were voting on governance on Curve, like that would not play out very well. You want as many people voting there as possible. And so the same goes for just about governance anywhere. So one user's benefit in that a greater quorum can be reached with because we have gotten more tokens to be locked. Like, a little case study, we just implemented PLS SPA, and the amount of VSPA, their vote escrowed SPA token, has doubled since then. So there's now more than twice as many VSPA locked, which can create a more democratized governance vote and whatnot. With ultimately, when bribes come, users will be able to bribe and basically pay for those votes to go wherever they want them to go. So there's that benefit there of just, that benefits both users and the project itself. Because again, the users benefit from a greater quorum of people, and the project benefits the same way, in that, like, it can't be controlled by a small group of people if we come along and have, create a huge portion of governance being locked. And then there's also the benefit where, if in the case of VDPX, I think we've locked up like around about 28,000, 29,000 VDPX right now, which that is now 29,000 DPX tokens that are, in this case, permanently locked, because even after the 4 years come up, they just get relocked with us. So those tokens are effectively taken off the market forever in a way, which, like, supply going down is ultimately a good thing. So there's that benefit there too. So even if you're not someone who's using a PLS asset, you're still benefiting from the PLS asset, because again, with the PLS asset, there are more vote escrowed tokens locked, and there's also less supply. So literally, when Plutus comes in, it benefits all the people of the project, not only the people who say, "Hey, I'm going to go and use Plutus directly."
To build on top of that, I think I'm not sure if this is a dumb question or not, but um, you know, in terms of like voting power and whatnot, like when tokens are launched are locked, I mean, in Plutus, like how are those technically still able to be used like on specific protocols governance? So, like for example, if DPX is locked up in Plutus, is that that's obviously taken off the market, but is it also taken off the ability to be used for DopeX governance, or is that kind of transferred somehow to the PLS asset?
Um,
PLS. Sorry.
yeah. So I think that to go for the example, I'll take Spirax because they have live governance, and we can actually give an example there. That Spirax actually, we just did our first governance vote on Spirax with the tokens we hold. So right now, until we set up uh, our PLS voting system, we internally are controlling the votes and just doing what is best, what we see best for the Plutus users. But ultimately, yes, the votes will get passed on to the PLS holders. So a PLS holder, depending on how much PLS they have, they'll be able to go vote and on in this case Spirax's governance, and the amount of VSPA that is represented by their PLS will then be used to go and vote on the corresponding governance decision. So right now, we internally control the votes, but when the time comes, that voting control will be passed on to the PLS holders.
That is insane, and I think it's so cool because it's like, by making that happen, essentially, you're giving you're giving users the ability to pretty much hold one specific token and control like a multitude of projects that are within that ecosystem, which obviously is mutually beneficial for everybody, right? That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And as a user, there's kind of this cool thing where if you're a user and you decide like, hey, I'm going to use these PLS assets, whether it's PLS DPX, PLS Jones, PLS SPA. Well, if you come in and you mint PLS DPX, you're giving up your VDPX governance in a sense. But if you go and stake that PLS DPX, you then start earning the PLS token. So you, in effect, start earning back that governance power that you just gave up while still earning those max rewards of the native DPX token for max locking. And you also get that benefit, like you said, of you're not even just getting governance power for that one token. So let's say you made PLS DPX. You're not only getting governance power for DopeX, but you're getting governance power for Jones, Spirax, and in the future, others too. So it's kind of this, very like it, if you do it right, this very plus EV experience for the users, where they can grow their governance power on a basket of assets, even though they're giving up their governance power when they mint, the PLS asset itself.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. And you mentioned a little earlier too, like that there are very specific ways how the users benefit from users of these different platforms benefit from their integrations with Plutus. Are there any other ways that the protocol itself benefits as well from Plutus? So, for example, like maybe any case studies from DopeX, Spirax, or even GMX.
Yeah, the main one I think would be from Spirax, where before PLS SPA launched, there was about 6% of SPA locked up as VSPA. And right now I don't have the number in front of me, but it's about 12%. So it's about doubled, in the amount of SPA locked has about doubled in a month. And again, the thing is it's not just like that VSPA is locked for 4 years. That new 6% of VSPA that's locked through PLS SPA, that's locked forever. So like it also creates kind of a base for the amount of governance that will always be there. So like even if all these users who don't have PLS SPA, if they let their V SPA unlock and didn't relock it, Spirax would still have more governance than if we hadn't come along necessarily. So yeah, there's kind of this benefit of just, I think the biggest benefit is the governance being locked forever, because then the protocol will always have like a large portion of the tokens that can be used to vote, and when bribes come, ultimately those votes will be determined by whoever pays the highest dollar for those votes.
Got you. So, like, it's safe to say that there are a multitude of tokens, like or token contracts, I guess I should say, that live within PlutusDAO. In terms of PLS itself, how is that token designed? Is it more or less just like an ERC20? Are there like any kind of like specific features or attributes to it?
So right now, the PLS token is relatively basic in our, tokenomics 1.0 phase, where it right now you can really just stake it and not really, stake it or provide liquidity. But we are working on our tokenomics 2.0 and putting that out, where the PLS tokens utility will grow significantly and will get very, very interesting. So for one, for users to control the governance that Plutus holds, they'll have to lock their PLS tokens, and then with that locked token, they'll be able to either delegate their governance to a bribe protocol, so that, or to a bribe market, so that they can, receive bribes for the governance they hold, which we know there's like a large set of users who want tokens for the bribes. And then there are also users who want PLS so that they can actually direct governance themselves. And we actually have a Medium article called Plutus Tokenomics 2.0 Phase 2. You can find it on our Medium, or you can go into our announcements to find a link to the article and really check the whole thing out for like a big deep dive into it. But I'll give the quick overview. So you can lock your PLS for 16 weeks, and then you get that control of the governance Plutus holds. Then there's kind of something we took some inspiration from GMX with their multiplier point system, which, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, basically the longer you keep your tokens staked, you earn these multiplier points that effectively act as a PL. In our case, will act as effectively a PLS token. So if you get one multiplier point, that'll represent like one locked PLS effectively, meaning the longer you stay locked, the more your underlying governance power actually grows. So there's this underlying incentive to stay locked and stay participating in governance on Plutus. And we've also taken, more inspiration from GMX. GMX has escrowed GMX, which is a version of GMX that is, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same, except it to turn it into regular GMX requires vesting it for 1 year, and in that year it linearly unlocks. So we saw, hey, this is a really good way to tackle that problem in crypto, which is the emissions problem of so many of right now it's in this state of crypto where like projects kind of live and die by emissions, but it's also a necessary evil. It's really hard to do a lot of projects without having emissions of some kind. But if you can take, an escrowed token that would require users to lock it in order to actually go and, sell it, uh, you can take away some of the negative aspects of emissions, which is obviously token inflation. But also users who want that governance, whether it be to sell bribes or to control protocols governance themselves, that it's a perfect asset for them, because they're already in the mindset of, well, I wasn't going to sell this asset, so effectively that ESPLS asset isn't a bad thing for them. It's actually something that's like, okay, well, I was going to keep it locked forever anyway so I could get the governance. So it's actually like plus EV for all involved. There's less token inflation, and users still get a token that they can use to control governance. And I think the last part of our tokenomics 2.0, that this is kind of a little bit of inspiration taken from Curve, but we'll have a Plutus boost. So Curve has a V boost where if you lock your Curve up as V Curve and you provide liquidity to a Curve LP, you'll actually get boosted Curve emissions depending on how much V Curve you have locked. So we're looking to take inspiration from that and do a similar thing, where if a user locks their PLS and they're also participating in one of our if they're staking, a PLS asset or a PLV asset, that boost will actually increase the amount of emissions a user would receive. So it kind of creates this like double whammy effect where if you're a Plutus power user and you are staking PLS and PLV assets, and you're also locking your PLS tokens, which again, you earn those PLS tokens by staking. So literally just by staking, you can create a way to earn even more emissions and get more governance and perhaps more bribes or more governance power, whichever you want. And it's all, tokenomics 2.0 is all about creating this system where there's it takes the token's utility and makes ways where users like benefit across the board. So like there's like multiple ways you can benefit, and the Plutus boost is one we saw like, okay, this is something that could further increase the use of our PLS and PLV assets. And it also kind of rewards those users who are the most diehard Plutus users.
Yeah, I would say go check out the Medium article because it literally sounds like we're in a economics class right now. So go check it out, pop in the Discord, ask questions. It's deep, right? So a little harder to conceptualize on the spaces.
Yeah, and if you're not already familiar with some of those things like ESGMX or the Curve V Boost or multiplier points, it might just sound like total gibberish to you. So yeah, definitely check out the articles. Check out things like GMX and whatnot to see where the inspiration came from for it. And if you aren't already familiar with those things, once you are, you'll kind of have like an aha moment where everything will click.
I think every space that I end up hosting, I tend to have that. And that was a great explanation, by the way. I made sure to pin the tweet that contains that Medium article about the tokenomics 2.0 in the Twitter space here. So for those of you who want to look into it, you can just take a look right there. But yeah, I think it truly isn't like I remember when Curve first came out. I'm sure like a while ago. Uh, it was like just trying to understand that was just like way beyond like what I could understand. I like mind you, like although I have like I went to school for engineering, but I work in marketing, more or less. So I'm like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, it's deep concepts, like there's got to be a way to make all this stuff a little more digestible for, mainstream adoption. But for those looking to get technical, we definitely have the specs for you as well. So it's like kind of, this rock and a hard place of trying to find the best, most easy way to break stuff down while also allowing for people who do like that deep dive to get their fix as well.
But it's interesting, right? Just hearing you guys kind of explain that, like your new version of tokenomics. I feel like it's definitely not an excuse to have bad tokenomics if you're another protocol. But like, I feel like if your tokenomics does end up becoming questionable down the line, I feel like Plutus is kind of just like a get out of jail free card. Yeah, we can just swallow your governance for you, no worries.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of win-win experiment, and we're excited about the future of Flutus and kind of adapting our own tokenomics and being able to pull things from successful projects is truly a blessing. A lot of these projects kind of paved the way for DeFi, and we're kind of hoping that we can cement ourselves on the roadmap, and then people will iterate on what we put out there as well.
Oh, totally. And I think in that note, it definitely makes sense to maybe even ask, like, what's next in the timeline for Plutus? I mean, besides the tokenomics 2.0, do you have anything else kind of on your roadmap?
Yeah, so we've been out for 6 months, and I want to say we've launched like 5, 6 products. So we're in the business of shipping, but the BD hunt is always, always, always ongoing in the background. You know, for maybe people who don't have that insight, there are a ton of awesome projects that are about to be launched on Arbitrum. Again, like the home of DeFi is not a meme; it's happening in real time. So I'd say things to look out for. We're gonna be running our own sort of what we're calling a Plutus pilgrimage, and so it's basically going to be you know, a way to explore our ecosystem of projects as well as kind of have a little fun to it. You know, we stole that idea from obviously the Arbitrum Odyssey. You know, and then also, you know, we're builders, but we're keen to helping anyone build on top of us. Like we said, we want to make these DeFi Lego blocks that anyone can build on and make better. So if you're looking to build, if you know whether it be small or large or anything, I mean anyone can contribute in this space. So if you're looking to contribute or build or whatever it may be, just hit us up, and we're more than happy to work to help that vision get realized.
Yeah, and on the topic of building, you know, for people who may have ideas or something, I kind of want to give you some insight into how Plutus actually came along and got built, because I think there are a lot of people who want to build things and either, you know, don't know where to start, don't know how to, or like maybe are even scared. But I mean, literally the way that Plutus came into fruition is Ethersol effectively made a tweet saying, "Hey, I want to build something. If anybody has any ideas, shoot me a DM." And I had seen that tweet. I had been in the DopeX community. I knew Ethersol had been in the DopeX community. And I basically just shot him a DM and said, like, "Hey, dude, here's kind of this like basic rudimentary idea I have for something we could build on Arbitrum. What do you think about it?" And you know, like I think that night or like the next day, he was like, "Dude, that sounds awesome." We added each other on Discord, talked the next few days, a couple hours each day, set up a Discord server, and just went from there. And so like if you have an idea, I mean, one, don't be afraid to like share it and just look for people to start building. Ultimately, I think a lot of people want to build things, but they just don't know where to start. And it can literally just be as simple as a tweet or just reaching out to someone like you know, and just being like, "Hey, like let's just go at this," because you know this is the first project that you know Ether Solar I have gone and built, and I mean thus far like things are going great, and a lot of that is because once you know we were like, "Hey, we should pursue this idea," we're like, "Okay, let's start putting together this team," and you know this great team then came together over the next few months, and you know ultimately we put this all together, launched the project, and then here we are 6 months after launch, where literally you know it started out as an idea in a tweet, and now I might be a little bit biased here, but like you have one of the you know a very notable project on Arbitrum that I've found like tons like just about everyone I talk to on Arbitrum has at least heard of Plutus. So like you know things can start from very humble beginnings and then build up into something huge. So like if you have those ideas or something, you can even come in our Discord and just like I'm sure you can find users on our Discord who want to build too. And if you're building off Plutus or you want to build off Plutus, there's probably no better place to go and find people to build with.
And for context there, I was just looking at DeFi Llama. I know you guys just got listed on there. You're top 14 by TVL on Arbitrum, and I'm sure that's just really just the beginning.
Yep. Next step is getting to top 10.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that that'll happen with no problem. That's why I think at this point we can probably, if anyone has any questions from the community, feel free to raise your hand, and we'll be happy to bring you up here. You can ask uh, any of the Plutus team. Let's see here. I know sometimes we get a bunch of trolls, but I think we may have some good questions this time. All right, we're bringing up Eric.
Hello.
How we doing?
Hey, thank you for having me on. Thank you for hosting this space. I love Plutus, and I'm excited for the V2 tokenomics. And I think it's a really hot yield play what Plutus offers, and I like everything about it. One question that I have though is with regards to the bribes. As we've seen across crypto, usually tokens that bring in bribes are more so tokens that have like sort of a monetary incentive behind their votes. So you see like they direct emissions, turn liquidity pools. People that need liquidity in their pools are willing to, you know, allocate funds to that governance, therefore bribe. So far, I haven't seen any sort of tokens that represent emissions and therefore have a monetary incentive behind bribing. I just want to see if the Plutus team could speak to that and how they look at that going forward, especially with being that, you know, they offer a platform people can bribe for this governance. Yet, I haven't seen that in Arbitrum yet, where there's an incentive for people to pay these bribes.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Appreciate you hopping up. So yeah, a lot of the bribes are centered around emissions. I would say you take a look at Sperax's new Demeter project or product, and it's basically a way to optimize Uni v3 in sort of a curve format where you will actually direct emissions towards these liquidity pools, and it's basically a permissionless factory for spinning up Uni v3 pools. And like a lot of the reason projects don't use Uni v3 is because it gives you this NFT that's kind of representing your LP. And so it's a great way to kind of take that friction out while allowing people to use the most efficient sort of decks out there. That can be argued by some people, of course. And then we have a list. I want to say it's in the Discord, but we can pop it up in general of what DopeX is looking to do for their bribes or their governance. And so there will be a portion that is emissions, right? So they have these like sort of option vaults where you can direct emissions towards those vaults, but then also people can set strike prices. People can actually, bribe to get their own option vault. This can help people with their own tokenomics, right? Not having to release more tokens via liquidity bribing and all that type of stuff. So, I think while your question is super valid and like yet to be seen, a lot of these projects are going to be releasing what we believe will be bribable governance, and it's just not like super apparent and out there right now. But I think the closest thing that you'll find to like full blown launch is this Sperax Demeter product, which will be like sort of directing emissions and all that type of stuff that we're talking about with gauges and the most similar to like Curve.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Oh,
to
sorry.
that point, the reason, or well, to the point made earlier, we front ran a lot of the governance, and the plan was basically, hey, when these, emissions gauges do come, we'll have the governance already stockpiled, ready to go. So part of the reason just for not seeing it yet on Arbitrum is because in this case, with the projects that we've acquired, they haven't put out that side of their governance yet. But as EtherSoul said, Demeter is coming very soon, which will have a gauge attached to it that users will be able to direct, and both DopeX and Jones will also have emissions gauges. So there will be, similar to Curve, that like base level of value for directing that governance, where like you could effectively actually calculate like, okay, one VDPX or one V Jones or one V Spa will control this many spot or DPX or Jones tokens in the gauge. One PLS token controls this much of that. So like, you'll be able to come to like a tangible number of, okay, so like what is a bribe technically worth, or what is the governance actually worth? It won't all just kind of be like governance quorums of like, hey, should we add this token or add this product? There will be those native governance through the emissions gauges that have that tangible value.
Thank you for the clarification, guys. Glad to hear it.
Yep, of course. And right now we have a great Dune dashboard that actually breaks down the amount of underlying governance we hold for each asset, and it will even break down like, okay, one PLS controls this much VDPX right now, or this much Jones right now, or this much VSPA right now. That's, you can find that Dune dashboard on our Discord. And maybe we can get it pinned up at the top here if we can find the tweet, just to make it easier for everyone on the Twitter Spaces. But yeah, no, that's a very good question.
Awesome. Bringing up the next dude. Very, very funny picture, by the way.
Hello.
You're good to
Yeah.
go.
So I have kind of a dumb question, but could we expect one day that the PLS taker to be able to vote for upcoming token governance project to blackhole?
That's a great question. I think in the spirit of decentralization and kind of like, the whole ethos of crypto, our end goal for the project is to have kind of a permissionless factory where there is this like PLS governance that people can vote on to, choose the next PLS asset and then eventually spin it up and direct emissions there in a way that is kind of all decentralized. So there is a grand vision there of having that, come to fruition. It's probably a ways off, but I definitely think that's on the team's mind and roadmap per se. Obviously, a lot to tackle before then, but that's definitely an end game type scenario.
Yeah, thank you. Because I think that personally, doing this on the first place is going to be a bit risky. You've got to wait for the project to mature, to have a lot of projects already black hold, and then you can think about decentralized and stuff and thing. But thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, there's a ton of great products, projects, and everything launching on Arbitrum, and a lot of people, come in and be like, "Hey, we should black hole this. We should accumulate this governance and then that type of stuff." And there's a delicate balance of front running, but also choosing quality because you don't just want to spread your ammo all over the place and hope a couple hit and that are winners. You kind of just want a core quality select group of proven winners per se, and so you have to like toe the line of, all right, you don't want to be late to the party to where they're so proven of a winner that it's like you're too late, but also you don't want to be too early where the project fizzles out and you kind of wasted emissions and now you're holding this like essentially worthless governance power. So it again, definitely I agree with you, it's too early, but yeah, that's definitely on our minds for something that would be a later vision of Plutus.
Thanks for coming up. Up next, we have a Bored Ape, Cosmos.
Hey guys, thanks for the time. I appreciate you guys doing this call. I'm, a small bag holder in Plutus, and really like what you guys are doing. And so, yeah, really appreciate the management being able to get on and talk to the community. Um, I guess my question is mainly around your roadmap of expanding to other protocols, and sort of your relationship with the protocols like DopeX and SPA today. Like, how, how would you describe the relationship with DopeX and SPA? Is it like friendly, or is it more like neutral, or like how do you guys think about working with them or just working independent of them?
Yeah, no, great question, and thanks for coming up. I'd say it's been a pleasure working on Arbitrum. Everyone is super friendly and collaborative. Obviously, everyone is in this game of like, okay, we're looking to make the best for our own protocol, but it's been so refreshing to see how much collaboration and willingness there is to help each other out. All of our relationships with all the current PLS assets and all the PLV assets are actually amazing. We talk to all of our partners. I want to say at least weekly, but it's kind of like this win-win mentality of like, how can we make it what's best for you, best for us type of deal. And then future assets that we're considering, it's like it's been the same kind of experience. It's been at least calls once a week, once a month, whatever it is. Touching, as we are launching something, it's obviously much more communication than something that's been launched. Like VDPX, PLS DPX has been launched for quite some time now, so it's like we don't need to hold calls every other day, but we are constantly looking for ways to kind of boost the quality of these assets with our core partners. So to answer your question, we're in touch all the time. It's great to see everyone being so collaborative on the Arbitrum train in general. Trying to make it the best place for everyone. But yeah, that's hopefully that answers what you're asking.
Yeah, that's helpful. Maybe just to clarify a little bit, I think one of the things that's so powerful about Convex is that clearly people go to them now, and that's sort of like the Bribe ecosystem, and it's been decentralized. But to what extent do you think your relationships, and this is just a business maturity thing, I guess that'll change over time, is like inbound versus outbound sort of outreach, and are there specific protocols that you think you should be expanding to?
Yeah. So another great question. I think it's in the beginning, it was a lot of, hey, we don't really know, right? Like we're kind of hesitant on you guys. First off, I think you have to prove yourself in this space, and then that's fair, right? Where it's like you're an anon team. You're kind of a nascent protocol, but now that we've attracted TVL and honestly, like the partners that have paired up with us, we're giving their users a liquid option for this like staked governance. They want to up their governance, like Big said earlier, but also seeing SPA's locked portion of tokens double in 3 days from the launch of that asset is an insane marketing tool, right? So again, like getting to your question, the inbound is starting to ramp up as opposed to it was a lot of chasing people down and figuring out like, hey, will you give us the time of day type of deal? But now that you kind of see the secret sauce in motion, it's a little more of like, hey, can we get listed on as a PLS asset type of deal? So, it's been nice to have that. We're still grinding on the outbound, of course, because there's some bigger players and stuff like that we still want to get a hold of and put in our ecosystem. But as far as determining the next PLS asset and like it's all just relationship building and BD, and I think it's like a lot of also determining what makes it valuable from a governance aspect. And so it's just a lot of like knowing about the protocol, educating yourself, getting familiar with the space, seeing their community. There's just a ton of factors. We don't want to spread ourselves too thin, like I said. So it's like this again delicate balance.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you. And sorry, one more. It's just on competition. Do you expect Convex to build something similar in Arbitrum, or like, are you like, it doesn't even make sense for something like this to be multi-chain?
Yeah, I think there is a world where this does go multi-chain. We've definitely talked about it, but I do think there is room for competition. Competition's always good. Kind of solidifies the business model. Again, we front ran the governance that we did because we were kind of anticipating Convex to come over and do something. They took a hold of Curve and then Frax, and then it was kind of like, oh shit, are they gonna front run Dopex and all this other stuff? So we kind of like took the reins there and said, let's like kind of be at the foothold of Arbitrum, because we're taking a bet on this sort of ecosystem being the next big DeFi place. So again, we welcome competition coming into the space and trying to hoard governance. And if you're looking to hoard governance right now, there's really no better asset than PLS. So yeah, there's definitely room for competition though. Arbitrum is going to be a huge ecosystem. So excited for the future there.
Cool. Thanks so much, guys. Good luck on the product dev, and look forward to the progress. And maybe just bonus for the Arbitrum guys, when Odyssey?
Very soon, my friend. Very soon.
Thanks for coming out, man.
All right. We have one more individual waiting. Kirk, how we doing? It's possible Kirk fell asleep by the time.
Can you guys hear me?
There you
Is
go.
it working? I was muted.
we got
It's
you
the old mute trick. Beautiful. Hey, I just wanted to see if you guys could go into the redacted partnership, redacted cartel and Plutus. Want to hear a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So Redacted has their hidden hand bribe marketplace that has you can go and bribe through it. So a big part of that partnership is really making sure that there is a bribe marketplace for Plutus users on day one when when the underlying governance we hold goes live, whether it's VSPA, VJones, VDPX. So that partnership is going to make sure that Plutus users who want bribes have a way to receive bribes going in there from day one, really.
Gotcha. So would you say then it's kind of contingent or launching upon, I guess, one of the first bribable gauges then launching on Arbitrum?
Yeah, and we've like had obviously we've been talking with Redacted and whatnot, and so like when that time comes that we'll say VSPA is ready to have their Demeter gauges directed via governance, that will be ready on day one there, so users will be immediately able to delegate their governance to the hidden hand marketplace, and then just kind of forget about everything and just collect their passive bribe revenue.
Awesome to hear. That's all I had. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I think we actually have one more, and then we'll probably just call it quits there, since we're closing in on the 1 hour mark. Lodestar Finance.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, yeah, my question is there any avenue for Plutus to get involved with Arbitrum governance?
Is that technically a question for me?
Well, yeah, towards, I guess, either one.
Yeah, absolutely. We're open to it, obviously. We love Arbitrum and that's the place we call home. So if there's a governance aspect someday, then you can bet that we'll be at the forefront of that.
And I'll toss out the obligatory when token.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to toss it out. It's supposed to be the person that I bring up.
Switching it up on you, keeping you on your toes.
I think to answer that question, the most how do you say the most safe way possible is that it's very clear that we've always been ecosystem first from the very beginning, and that we'll continue on in perpetuity. So yeah, I'll stop there. But thank you for the question. Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So I think with that being said, we can maybe close out here. Just for anyone who is interested in being involved in PlutusDAO, whether it be contributing to it, to the protocol itself, or even just being part of the community, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Head on over to the Discord. All of our links should be on our Twitter, which is in this spaces right now. But head on over to the Discord. We're super friendly. The community is great. There's a lot of DeFi power users, so there's a lot of constructive conversations going on. Look out for the Plutus pilgrimage coming up. I'd say follow us on Twitter for the most up to date announcements. But yeah, Discord is definitely the place to catch us. If you're looking to chat, if you're looking to build, hang out, whatever, we accept everyone.
Awesome. Well, that being said, Ether Soul, Big K, really appreciate you guys for coming on today and giving us a taste of Plutus.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us on. This has been great, and appreciate all the questions. Really brought the heat there, so that was awesome.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you very much for having us. And just a reminder for anyone who might have joined late or just joined, the Spaces is recorded. So if you want to go back and listen to hear about Plutus, maybe pick up a little bit of alpha, make sure you listen to the recording.
Totally. Thanks, guys, for coming on. Appreciate y'all. See you on the next one.
All right. See you guys.
Bye now.